Hello, welcome to the Rise Up with Margarita show. I'm Margarita Alcantara, and welcome to this week's Rise Up with Margarita show. Every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, I really provide tools and support with light workers who are really showing up in their power now, who are ready to go to the next level. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Margarita Alcantara, and I help those light workers who are new earth leaders, who are ready to build their epic businesses, activate light and empowerment on the planet. And I do that support through power activation work and mentorship. So today's topic for the Rise Up with Margarita show is 5 ways to be sure that you do not use your intuition. And so I wanted to talk into this a little bit more, even though I know that people who tend to follow my work are really already light workers who do a lot of work with their intuition, who do a lot of energy work, and those are those types of leaders who are showing up in their light and honing and cultivating their light actively. And when you do that, it's really you sourcing your information internally, your inner wisdom, your intuition. And so it is so important to get down to sometimes these kinds of basics, because I hear a lot of light workers who are like, yeah, I'm connected to my intuition, but a lot of times what they're doing is they're sourcing fear and then they're calling it intuition just because it's more convenient, right? So I wanted to talk into this topic today and saying hello to Ness, I see is here. Hi, Will. And Jen Lynn is here as well, Reluca and Rachel. And so just saying hello to everyone here, and really excited to go into this topic today. And let me know if this is something that you already feel would serve you, because I know for a fact, just on what I've been noticing, not only on a personal level with some of my clients and with people who are light workers and who are really wanting to show up in the world in a bigger way, it can be really difficult to kind of discern. And I was even, if you watch my IG stories, you know that I actually put out that question of like, what are you moving through? Well, like, what are your beliefs around your intuition? What are you feeling around them? And I got this question a lot, which I will answer in a little bit, but it's this question of how can you tell between fear and your actual intuition, which is a great question. And I get asked this question a lot. So I will speak into this. And Ramble on Rose is saying, feeling the urges to do big moves indeed. Good. Hey there, Will. Hi, Maria from Sweden. So really great to have you here. Yeah, and so here are 5 ways to make sure that you do not use your intuition. And I'm going to share first why it's important to be discerning with what your intuition is and what it isn't. Go into the 5 ways to be sure that you don't use your intuition, and then how to more fully take ownership of your Lightworker gifts and your abilities. So, I'm not just going to be like, don't do this, see you later. Like I'm going to actually share with you some ways you can immediately act on and trust your intuition now, because that's super important. Because, one of the biggest reasons why it's so important to be discerning is because there are many timelines competing for attention right now. And I'm sure that you're probably picking up on this. You can even see this on the world stage playing out quite literally, competing for your attention, all these timelines of what's going on in the world. And most of them are connected to outdated timelines that aren't even aligned with the truth, but a lot of individuals, organizations, are kind of using it as the truth, right? But if you're not really connected with your intuition very well, you'll think it's the truth. And you'll think that your fear that's coming up within you, it means truth, right? And so, I want you to really be discerning with what you're ingesting, right? Because when you're not, you're going to just believe some of these timelines that are no longer true. And I already know that a lot of light workers really believe some of these outdated timelines and beliefs, which are very much connected to the old paradigm around, their own power, around taking ownership of their money as examples, right? And one way that you can always know when you are listening more to your fear rather than intuition is, if you're being challenged to take the helm, to step up, to believe in yourself in a higher way that you never believed in yourself before, of course it's going to be fearful. Of course you're going to be scared out of your mind. You're probably going to be like, hell no, I'm not doing that, right? And then you'll take that as, oh, that's a sign from my guides, or that's a sign from the universe to not step forward, when in actuality, you will guaranteed feel scared, fearful about taking that next step into your power, because you will be called forward to be embodied in a different version of who you've ever been up until this point. So if you believe that you're going to just get to the next level of your power doing all the same things that you've been doing for like years, then that's going to be like a total rude awakening for you. So I'm trying to make it not as rude an awakening for you, because it will be a rude awakening to then discover like, oh my God, so now I'm starting to realize that in order for me to step up into this next level of my being, of my power, of, blasting my radiance into the world, it's actually going to take from me a different version of myself, So, and that's going to be in business, when you're a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, you're going to experience levels of that. You think that you reached one and you're like, okay, I reached my new level of power. And then you realize the bar's been raised, right? So it's that kind of thing. And that's why commitment to growth is so important. Will is saying, honestly, so excited for this, making moves towards my goals and feeling some resistance. Yeah. And that's also awesome. I want to speak into that because just because you might feel resistance, and I'm not talking about you, Will, I'm talking about just like everyone who is here who this may resonate with, just because you feel resistance does not mean that it's wrong, does not mean that it's not for you, does not mean that it's your time to back off, right? Because when you feel resistance, that's your own personal old paradigm bumping up against the next level of your power. Because the next level of your power is like, oh yeah, you can do this. This is amazing. You're going to be amazing. You're going to be serving all these people and it's going to be wonderful, right? But then there's this belief system that's keeping you here, and it's going to bump up against that next level of who you are, because you're going to have believed a certain thing about yourself up until this point. And in order to break through into that next level, you're going to need to believe in yourself at a level you never have before. So there will be guaranteed resistance each time you up level, and the empowered light worker will stick with it and figure out how to believe in themselves more, how to bust through that resistance, and know that resistance does not mean stop. It means, okay, I get to see that there's a part of me that's resisting. And then you just get curious, right? That's how you break through this stuff. You just get curious of like, why am I resisting that? That's interesting, right? And then once you start getting curious from a place of true curiosity versus why am I being resistant to this? Why, like I should be able to do this, right? Then you're judging yourself, and that doesn't help anyone, and certainly not you. So yeah. Ramble on Rose is saying, transforming fear through my transfiguration. I'm willing to commit. Yeah. And that's what it takes, right? Because no one except yourself will really know if you're truly stepping up, right? Like, I mean, it's really important, because the reality is that when you truly commit to yourself, then you really know that you have, versus saying that you are and not really, right? Like you're the one who will know if you're lying to yourself, right? So another reason why it's important to be discerning with your intuition and what it isn't is because humanity, we are powerful manifestors. I've spoken to this in my most recent post, right? We are powerful manifestors. Like we have literally, and I'm not going to get too deep into this because I know people are like, what? I want to know more, right? We have literally created like extraterrestrial species that didn't exist before out of our own fear. We have done that. That is how powerful we are. And so if you can imagine that we actually focus on all the things that we want and desire, and all the things that really feed our soul, nourish our existence, these aspects of unification rather than division, right? Like I get that it's very, almost sexy and trendy to like be in division and be like, oh, I'm different from this person and I'm better than you, and all this stuff that is such utter bullshit, that once you really get clear on how you're here to serve, like all of that crap, I'll just say, is just going to fall away, because that's not going to be something you're going to be concerned with. But that said, we are powerful manifestors as a humanity, right? And we've created timelines that didn't exist before based on our fears, right? And we've also created, situations and existences on different planes based on things that we really want to have happen, right? Like there are multiple versions of planet Earth that actually exist. And that too is not something I'm going to, open a can of worms on right now, but just to kind of see that in your heart, is that there are so many levels, so many planes of existence, and so many versions of Earth, and there are so many versions of you to add on to that, right? There's so many levels of you that are existing on different planes, right? And so just realize that what you're seeing today, like what you saw when you woke up today, that's not all there is, right? You and me, like you seeing me, for instance, on this broadcast, that's not all there is, there's so many levels and dimensions that are existing right now, on lower dimensions, on higher dimensions, and so, the bottom line is, what I'm getting at is, you are a powerful creator. You are a powerful creator, and that means anything that you're focusing on is being created right now. And it doesn't matter if you're aware of it or if you're not aware of it. Whether or not you're aware of it is kind of, moot, because every single given moment of every aspect of your life, you're actually creating something out of what you're choosing. And so that's why it's so important to be discerning with your intuition right now, so you can tell the difference. Also, time is being accelerated right now. Like if you haven't been able to notice, right? And I'm sure you have, because I think we just had like a full moon. I'm checking my calendar right now. I think we just had a full moon, and we also had Gaia's Schumann resonance spike, and now it's like high still. It's in the white hot, but there was a point, I think it was not this past Friday, but the Friday previous to that, that it spiked so high that it literally went into the red, and NASA actually blocked it out that day, so we wouldn't see it, right? Because can you imagine if we saw that shit? We'd be like, oh my God, what's going on? So all these people who I think are actually weirdos are actually telling the truth about all this amazing, powerful energy that we're experiencing right now. And there's just so much acceleration, all the solar energy coming in, the solar codes coming in, which is very much ascension energy. Also the cosmic frequencies are also streaming in. We're also absorbing that, receiving that into our system. And then the Schumann resonance, right? We're getting that from underneath our feet, upgrading us, because we're not the only ones who are upgrading, folks. Gaia is also upgrading. She's also upgrading her consciousness. That's something, that I have been doing work on for many years, and apparently many lifetimes, but it's something that I've reprised my role of in this lifetime once I remembered that aspect of myself. I guess it was 2016 now. And so I've been doing work with Gaia, and I talk with her every day, right? So she kind of gives me a quick lowdown. Sometimes it's more personal in terms of a message. Sometimes it's more on a global scale. And so this is stuff that we are ingesting, and you get to work with these accelerated timelines. You get to work with this amazing energy. And again, you are going to create based on whatever you are resonating at. So if you're resonating at a level of fear, and this is not about judging you if you're at fear, right? Because we all have those moments, but it's more like the frequency that you're carrying right now and harnessing is going to literally show you what you're going to create, right? So if you ever was oh, I want to have a psychic reading, all you need to do is look at what you're choosing right now to know what's going to happen in 6 months. So just putting that out there. And Will is sharing what you saw when you woke up today. That's all there is. Truly so profound we can't always take things at face value as long as our imaginations are created with love. Yeah. And it's not even like, because our imaginations, our intuition, and our hearts are very much connected. Like you would not imagine this existence, right? Whatever amazing thing it is that you're creating, if there wasn't the possibility of it actually existing on the quantum plane, So, I mean, just really realize that. Yeah, Nessa's sharing Schumann's resonance isn't really up for a quick break for like months. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that she's not like Gaia is on her journey of ascension as we are as well, right? So she's going to be feeling and upgrading, and we are too, because we're literally on her body, right? So we're going to feel all of that. So those are the reasons why it's important to be discerning with what your intuition is and what it isn't right now in particular. And now I'm going to share with you 5 ways to be sure that you do not use your intuition. So like just sharing this now. And as I shared before, I'm also going to share, ways to address that and transcend that. So number 1, the first way to be sure that you do not use your intuition is to let your fear distract you. So an example of that is like all the stuff that's being deployed on the earthly plane, like all this global stuff of like, be afraid of your body, be afraid of other people, be afraid of people who are different from you, be afraid of, your immune system, be afraid of your money, be afraid of your power, be afraid of your sovereignty. All of that is, those are weapons of, this temporal spiritual war that we are experiencing right now. And I say temporal because it's literally on different planes. It's happening on different planes. It's not just, out there in the ether or like here on earth. It's like happening on various levels of existence. It's literally like across the board, right? So this is something where don't allow your fear to distract you, because there's a lot of that fear weapon being deployed right now. And you get to focus on who you really are, right? Like it's the distraction is really to keep you out of your empowerment, keep you distracted from focusing on yourself, keeping you distracted from being in your power, keeping you distracted from being connected to your intuition and your abilities, right? So that's number 1. Let fear distract you if you don't want to use your intuition, right? So I'm sharing these 5 ways to make sure you don't use your intuition. So the first one is let the fear distract you. Number 2, confuse your fear as intuition. Confuse your fear as intuition if you do not want to use your intuition. I hope this is not too confusing. But basically, when you confuse your fear and you say, oh, that's my intuition, right? Because a lot of light workers do this. They'll be like challenged, they'll bump up in, against the resistance, right? And they'll take that to mean like, oh, that's a sign from the universe that I need to like back away from this right now, right? Or that's a sign from my guides that my guides are talking to me and saying, this is not the right time, or this is not my right time to shine right now. And your guides will, first of all, not ever tell you that something that just happens to be hard is not for you, or that you need to back away from that just because it's hard, right? Your guides will share with you those things that, maybe it's not going to be so fun. Maybe sometimes they are fun, right? But like there will be times where it will invite you to really, be confident in yourself, to stop doubting yourself, right? And that will mean that you will get to grab that chance, even though it's scary as hell, and move forward with it, right? So if your fear is saying, oh, don't do that because you've never done that before, that's not your guides. That ain't your guides. I hate to tell you that. It's your fear. And that is also not your intuition speaking, right? Because your intuition, when you're really connected with your heart will tell you what's up, really. Your heart will say, oh, like, I don't want to do that. And I'm feeling fear because I've never done that before, right? That is totally different than, that's going to be something that's not for you. That's not something for you at all right? That is not in alignment with you at all, right? That's very different than simply feeling fearful about something you haven't done before, right? And Nessa sharing this now means as much as get your pen and paper ready. Yeah, and that's really, really important to know that you get to be engaged with how you're receiving this information, right? Because this is all about you being in your power, and when you're engaged with it, when you're taking notes or you're thinking like, how does that fit in my life, or not, right? Then you're engaging with your powerful path. You're engaging with your ascension path. You're engaging with your own growth. Yeah, and Ramble on Roses sharing this confusion is great. Blurring lines to confuse the fear and reprogram yourself. Absolutely. Fear thinking it's being listened to, making sure I hear this right. Yeah, so really it's when you don't want to use your intuition, you confuse your fear as intuition, right? Like you're believing all of the fear programming that's being deployed of like, you're not capable of this, be fearful, you're going to starve, you're going to die, your immune system sucks, you need help with your immune system. It's like, that's all there to distract you from your innate power. You really are super, super powerful, and you don't need to outsource that, because there's a difference between outsourcing your power and seeking support, right? Because, it's one of the things that I offer is the coaching and the mentorship. But, and sometimes light workers will be like, well, I don't want to outsource my power. And that is totally a different thing. Outsourcing your power is depending on someone else for your happiness, right? And when you're really being coached and mentored at a high level, that person is not doing the work for you, right? That person is there to hold you high, to help you be accountable for what you want to create, and to support you towards that creation of what you want to create, right? So just really understand that. So that was number 2. If you don't want to use your intuition, number 2 is confuse your fear as intuition. Number 3 is second guess your intuition. And that's something that I saw coming in through my IG stories, when I posed that question about your intuition, was just like kind of this whole thing of like waiting to get evidence that you made that what you're hearing is correct, right? Versus just believing it and taking action on it. Because anywhere where you are second guessing your intuition, you are literally telling your heart, I don't know if I believe you. I'm going to wait until I get a sign from the universe that this is right. And on another hand, sure, you can say something like, you can ask your guides for some, am I hearing this correct? Give me 3 signs that, this is actually the case, right? But it's really about believing in yourself, believing in your intuition. And just to give you an example, because one of my Reiki students had asked me, well, isn't it okay that I just kind of wait a little bit when I get the information? And, because she was kind of feeling like, well, I don't know if I want to tell my client this information because it might be either startling or I don't know if that's true, if I'm hearing it correctly, right? But what you're doing there in that moment is that you are doubting your own intuition. And if you are censoring yourself from what your intuition is telling you, and you're censoring yourself from sharing that with your client, then you're actually doing an injustice to your client. Because what you're doing is saying you're putting your own filter that might be based on fear, depending, right? You're using your own filter and not giving them the real service. You're not giving them the actual information that they came to hear. And that said, just because you're giving your client some information that maybe they didn't want to hear, like I hear this from people who channel a lot. And one thing about channeling, just real quick, make sure that your energy is pristine before you channel. Because a lot of people, light workers I've noticed, who talk about being a channel and all that stuff, they have a lot of fears and traumas that are still unhealed, and then they channel. It's like, that can be really scary, because that you're not channeling beings of light if you're actually still in super trauma mode and then you're channeling, right? So it's just really being understanding of your energy and the information you get, right? Because that's something too that I sometimes have heard from my psychic clients who are like mystics and seers, because that's who I usually tend to work with, are those powerful seers and mystics and light workers and starseeds who are doing amazing things, and angelic, embodied humans, right? Is that they're just like, oh, I don't know if I should tell them that, right? Because they're not going to like what I'm going to say. That's not your job to filter this information. If it's true, and if you're that channel for that for your client, right? You owe it to your client to give them the actual information. And whether or not they don't like it or not, right? That's not on you. Because that happens sometimes where, clients will be like, oh, that person was full of themselves, or they're like false because they told me something that I didn't want to hear. That's not what I asked for, right? It's like, but clients don't get, and this is where you get to teach them. You get to teach your clients what to expect, right? Because if people are coming and saying, oh, I want to hear this, and this in exactly this way, otherwise you're a total farce, right? And that is someone who's just simply closed down, right? And so you can let them know, hey, the information is going to come as it comes in, and you're going to hear what you need, not necessarily what you want, right? And so that's the thing, is that when you're truly in service as a light worker, you're not censoring the wisdom. And it's okay if other people don't agree with you, don't like what you had to say. If you are in service and you're sharing that divine intel that's coming in through you because you need to share this with them, to serve them, it's okay if at first they're just like, oh, you're full of shit, right? Because whether or not that's their belief, you serve them. And when you're on the healing journey, you get to let your clients know that being on the healing journey is not always going to feel like love and light. You're not going to feel like you're, bouncing through the tulips on a summer day or whatever, right? Like, I mean, a lot of times you're going to be like in a corner crying and having a dark night of the soul, right? When you're truly like bringing up all that shit to the surface in order to heal it. Operative word, actively healing it, right? Not staying in that pain. And so I just want to share that with you to illustrate that point of, when you don't want to use your intuition, you're going to second guess it. So that was number 3. Yeah, number 3. Number 4, if you don't want to use your intuition, make sure your fear overrides your success as a light worker. So here's the thing, when you're a light worker and you're showing up as a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, meaning that your work is spiritual in nature, and it's changing people's lives, it's transforming, it's helping people heal, upgrade, whatever you're doing, right? And it could also be products too. And, you are going to be guaranteed called forward in ways that will feel super duper uncomfortable. And that's the way it is. Every single time you upgrade, you're going to be like, do you really want that? Do you really want that? So if you're all like, bring it on, bring in my intuition, bring in my power, bring in my light, bring in all my amazing clients, right? Get ready. Get ready for that. Because then you're going to be invited to become an embodied version of the next level of who you are in order to serve at that level, right? So if you don't want to use your intuition, make sure your fear overrides your success as a light worker. Number 5, if you don't want to use your intuition, believe your ego. Believe your ego that says, ooh, that's dangerous. We've never done that before. It's unsafe, right? And I'm not demonizing the ego. What I'm saying is that your ego's job is to keep you safe. And to keep you safe, it means don't put yourself in situations that are very different than what you've done before, right? Because if you do that, your ego will be like, hey, wait a minute, we haven't done this before. This is not safe, right? That's the ego's job, to tell you that. And if you allow your ego to run the show or take the steering wheel, then you will move forward with that belief system and act from your life and lead from your life with that, from that place, right? Believing your ego. So that means how that will look like is every time you're being invited to the next level of who you are meant to be, and this next level of embodiment that you're meant to be, your ego will jump in and be like, no, don't do that. We haven't done that before. That's not safe. And it's your job to check your ego and to not let it drive the car anymore, right? You get to be like, ego, thank you so much for looking out for us. This is super important and I love you for that. And also, I'm going to drive now, right? You can sit here in the passenger or the back seat, right? And I'm going to be driving and I'm going to be leading with service. And you get to like allow your ego to, it's valuable, it keeps you from dying, right? But your ego does not know the difference between you jumping off a cliff and you just stepping up into the next level of your power. It literally does not know the difference, right? And so that's when the light workers will be like, that's not rational. I need that to be logical. It's not reasonable, right? And it's like, of course it's not. Of course it's not. Your power is not this rational, controllable thing, right? Because if you think that your power is this rational thing, then I hate to burst your bubble, but it's not, right? Your power is energy, and energy is unlimited. You are unlimited. You are a sovereign being who is unlimited in a physical embodied state, right? So just understand that when you believe your ego, you are not using your intuition. So those are the 5 ways to be sure you don't use your intuition. And let me know if this is resonating for you. Okay. Ramble on Rose is sharing, oh wow, even just having the conversation to be confirmed, being patient for response for next steps, that's definitely something I have not asked to be shown. Definitely need to take that advice. Okay. Yeah, so glad that serves you, Annalisa. So here now, I'm going to share with you, now that I told you what not to do and how you're not using your intuition, I'm going to share with you, if any of that resonated for you, right? I'm going to give you some steps on, okay, now you get to try this out if it resonates, right? And medium of lights is absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So how to be more fully in your ownership of your gifts and abilities as a light worker. Number 1, be discerning with your energy so you no longer allow fear to distract you, right? So be discerning with your energy, meaning, and this all begins with you getting connected with what your energy is. And when you're an empath, it's super easy to like outsource your power to other people, right? Because you're like feeling their energy, you're feeling their disappointment, or you're feeling like, oh, they don't like what I'm doing, so I'll just stop it, right? Because when you're still disempowered as an empath, that's the belief of like you're responsible for other people's feelings, right? But when you're really connected to yourself as an empowered empath, an empowered light worker, and an empowered starseed, you're actually focusing on being discerning with your energy. So you will do the clearing techniques. I think I have a link in my bio for like ways to clear your energy. But when you're an empath, you need to prioritize clearing out your energy regularly and doing it often, depending on the level of work that you do, right? For me, because I'm like every day working on different planes and doing grid work, doing work with Gaia, doing work on these different levels and cosmically, and so I'm always making sure that my energy is clear. Like, is this mine? No, right? So you get to clear your energy. You get to be connected to your energy, get connected with what your energy imprint feels like, and you will know what your energy feels like if you clear out other people's energies from your field. And it doesn't mean that you don't love them or anything. It's not that. It's more about making sure that you're not taking on other people's stuff as yours, because that's like a huge empath mistake that a lot of empaths who are still learning about energy do a lot, is that they take on other people's stuff, right? So that's really important. Clear the energy, get discerning with what your energy imprint is like, and then just keep on cultivating it over and over and over. And like one of the best ways to do that is really getting curious with, does this belong to me? This feeling, if there's a feeling that's coming up for you. And just as a reminder, I won't be answering any questions until like the end of what I'm sharing here. And also it's going to be in regards to this topic of today. Otherwise we'd be here like until the cows come home, right? And I did mention that in terms of cleaning your energy, that I do have a link in my bio for that. So you can check that out. And I've also been sharing with you too of not only is it important to clear your energy, but to be discerning with your energy. And that starts with being clear with what you're feeling and asking yourself, does this belong to me or not? And then you will get, if you're connecting with your heart, you will get a specific information on that, right? It'll either be a yes or a no. And if it doesn't belong to you, you can let that go, send it back in a ball of light kind of thing and just send it back to sender, right? And so that is just a way to be more connected with your energy. So that is number one, to fully take more ownership of your Lightworker gifts and abilities, be discerning with your energy, so you no longer allow fear to distract you. Number two, stop confusing your fear as intuition. And here's where I will share with you how you can tell the difference, right? So the difference between your intuition and fear is this. Your fear will come from a very constricted place. It'll come from like, I'm afraid to do this, so therefore it's bad, right? Or your body will feel like it's constricting or closing in, and your energy will feel like it's either stopping or closing off. And the fear is also going to be super critical of you. It's going to be very judgy. It has a very judgy voice, kind of like, I can't believe you did that, or obviously not. You're not going to do that, right? Like, I mean, it's super judgy. It's kind of like the mean girl, right? So that's how your fear usually shows up, or like it's that constriction. And then your intuition will be very steady. If you quiet your brain long enough, and if you quiet your energy, and that's why meditation is like a non-negotiable, it should be a non-negotiable for you. When you still yourself, still your mind, you can allow, that's when your intuition comes forward and it speaks. And it's very like matter of fact, it's very neutral. It's not like, oh my God, pay attention to this, right? Like unless you're about to literally fall off a cliff, then you're going to get like some signs that are going to be a lot more urgent. But normally it's just super neutral. It's not in your face. It's not obnoxious and judgy. And your energy will like open to that and be like, and it might feel like excitement. Like, and even if you're scared, right? Because you can be excited about things and also feel that fear, right? But fear does not equal bad. Fear does not equal stop. Fear does not equal, don't do it. Right? Fear just shows up, period. And you get to inquire about where that fear is coming from, right? So that is a way that you can stop confusing your fear as intuition. So that's number two. Number three, stop second guessing your intuition, especially when it doesn't make sense. And take action on your intuition. Because here's the thing, it's not enough to be like, oh, I'm this prolific person with all these gifts, right? It's like, well, use them. Use them. Take action on them, right? Because your intuition will not grow, and in fact, it will be stunted if you don't take action on your intuition. So an example of taking action on your intuition is sharing that information that you were like, oh, I don't know if this is right or not, or like, I don't know if I want to share this. My client might have a certain reaction, maybe she won't like it or something, right? That's not your call. Your call is to share the intel, right? So when you're second guessing your intuition, you're basically hesitating, you're basically doubting your intuition. And whenever you doubt your intuition, and when you don't take action on the intuition, because you need both, right? You can't just have intuition and then be done with it, right? You actually get to take action on the intuition. And when you don't take intuition, action on the intuition, or you don't believe it, or you hesitate, or you don't believe it, right, then you actually weaken. You actually weaken your intuition. So that's why you want to stop second guessing your intuition. And the way you start feeling more confident about the information is that you just start sharing it, right? Like you start like connecting with yourself and saying, okay, is this the message that is required in this moment, right? And if the answer is yes, then do it. And if you were to second guess yourself, then you say, but that doesn't make any sense, right? Or, someone, so-and-so just said this. So, maybe what I'm going to say doesn't make sense to other people, or they're going to call me crazy or whatever, right? And it's like, that's not your call. And you get to have more faith in yourself than that, right? So that was number 3. Stop second guessing your intuition, especially when it doesn't make sense, and take action on it. And number 4, stop allowing your fear to override your success as a light worker. And get clear on and committed to your path, right? And when you're committed to your path, it looks like being committed to your growth, like even if it looks ugly, or you're having a bad hair day, or your nose is stuffed up, or you just broke up with your partner or whatever, right? Like, and of course you get to take care of yourself, but what I'm saying is, commitment is showing up even when you don't feel like it, right? That's commitment. It's easy to take action and committed action when you're having a good day, when the sun is out, when you just brought in an amazing new client you get to work with who like rocks your, you're so excited to work with them, right? Like, it's easy to serve and be committed to your path in those times. Commitment means, can I still show up even if I feel like shit today, right? And then of course, make sure that you do what you need so that you can, do whatever healing you need around that. It's not like ignore your basic needs, right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying take care of yourself and stay consistent with your commitment to show up, right? And if you want to be clear, the clarity comes from doing, and just doing it over and over, and which is consistency, right? And that's how anyone you see now who is confident, that is actually what they're doing. You're seeing the end result of them being consistent on their path no matter what, right? Because there have been many moments where, I've got disappointing news, or, something happened, or, like I had, like a massive zit, like right in the middle of my face, and, whatever, like, or something occurred, right? And it's like, do I stop? No. Put on the cover up and get going, right? like put the cover up, like the concealer on your zit, and do your stuff, right? And it's again, it's not about ignoring your needs. It's about taking care of your needs, one of which is being committed to your path, right? So you get to see that your path and being committed to it is something you're choosing. It's not something that someone's imposing on you or something like that, right? Like this is what you want. This is what you're choosing actively. In order to choose it actively, that means choosing it every single day, even on those days when you don't feel like it. So that is how you become successful as a light worker. You just keep going. It's not about failure, right? The only failure you can really have is just not showing up on your path at all and quitting. That's the only way you can truly fail. Everything else is just information. So, let that perfectionism just fall away, right? Because it's not like when you're an entrepreneur who is a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, you get to put things in perspective, right? And failure is really not failure. Failure is just information. It's just feedback, right? So you can do things with that feedback or not. And so that was number 4. Stop allowing your fear to override your success as a light worker and get clear on, then commit to your path. And then number 5, stop believing your ego's fear as truth. Get clear on what your truth is. Then start to create awareness on how your ego creeps in and when. right? So this is part of cultivating that awareness, cultivating your energy, cultivating your power. It's about, okay, what's this really about, right? So, something pops up, maybe you get triggered about something and it's like, oh, wow, that was a very strong reaction. What is that about? So again, bringing it into curiosity, like, what is this about really? And you will often discover that it's not about what you think it is, right? It's about what that thing represents. And it will often represent something that is still unhealed within you, which is fine. That just means that you get to heal it, right? But then you also get to do that work to do that. And so part of that means getting aware with when your ego wants to step in and be like, nope, you're not doing that. We're going to die if you do that, because that's really what the ego feels, right? And so you're going to be like, oh my God, we're going to die if we do that. We're going to die if we make that real. We're going to die if we publish our video. We're going to die if I do a live. I'm going to die if I put my work out there in a bigger scale and come out as a starseed, right? No, number one, you won't die, right? That may have happened in a previous lifetime, but you get to also see how your ego is going to creep in. And it will keep you from growth, not because it's mean and nasty, but just because its job is to keep you safe. And growing is not safe. It will never feel safe, and you will always feel like, what the hell am I doing, right? When you're truly growing. So start becoming aware of when your ego starts to creep in and at what point it starts to creep in, right? Because there will be a point, there will be a tell when your ego will be like, oh, wait a minute, halt it right there. We're not doing that, right? And then you start to get aware of it. And that's really the first step, is creating awareness of what is that? Why is my ego having that reaction? Why am I ingesting it as truth right now? Okay, so that was something that I was taught from, my mom when I was 4, for instance. And then you get to reevaluate if that's still true, right? And you get to be like, well, maybe it was true when I was 4 and I was dependent on this adult in order to eat and be clothed, right? But now, being who I am now, is that still resonating? And most likely you will get a no. Most likely that no longer resonates. And then you can say, oh, okay then, well, so what I've been believing is this outdated belief, right? So now what do I want to do with that? Do I want to continue with that outdated belief, or do I want to choose something different? And this is all it comes down to, folks, is it's all about a new decision. You get to make a new decision, right? So that was number 5. Stop believing your ego's fear is truth. Get clear on what your truth is. Then start to create awareness on how your ego creeps in and when. So I know this was a lot, but this is a super juicy topic. Yes, and Nessa's sharing, yes, and retrograde might bring some old fears up again now. It's an opportunity to see what still needs some clearing. Absolutely. During the retrogrades, it's not about oh God, now I'm going to get shit on again, right? No, that's not what retrogrades are about. Retrogrades are about revisiting, reviewing all the re's, right? So you get to review certain things that are still in your energy field that are ready to get healed. That's all. That's all it is. It's not a story about how you're not worthy or that you're a bad person. It's not, none of that, right? So just keep things in perspective. Ramble on Rose says, all right, ego, if I'm going to die, I'd much rather die doing what I love to do. Absolutely. Absolutely. And also you won't die. You won't, right? So I just reviewed why it's important to be discerning with what is your intuition and what isn't. The 5 ways to be sure that you don't use your intuition, and then how to more fully take ownership of your Lightworker gifts and abilities. And so any questions about this topic specifically that you're curious about, or that maybe wasn't really answered in what I just shared. And just know that when you really ask those thoughtful questions, what you're doing is you are engaging your true power. You are engaging your divine power, because your divine power is that aspect of yourself, okay? And this is why the work I do on the divine power level and activating these codes on the divine on the DNA level is so important is because it's literally in your DNA to be powerful. All those, other DNA that scientists have labeled junk DNA is not junk DNA. It's just not understood as part of your divine power codes, but they are not automatically turned on. You actually have to consciously turn them on, and you can do that in so many ways, right? There are ways to do that that does not involve power activation work like I do, but I will tell you something, it's going to accelerate it super quick. It's like that, or you can be like uncovering things layer by layer after all the years, and which is basically what I did, right? But or you can take the shortcut and be like, bam, and then of course after that you get to be in your accountability around it, right? Like you get to shift how you're perceiving things, you get to choose differently in your life, right? Which is why I then created the mentorship program, because it's super easy to have those good days, but on the good days when you just start feeling like you're regressing, or you let yourself off the hook, like no one's there to hold you high, right? But I'm that person, if that's something that resonates for you, right? I love this statement. Motivated Optimist says, we have enough energy to do the work. Absolutely. Because as you know, energy is limitless, yes. And you are limitless. And you being energy, you are innately limitless. Like your physical body might have some limitations, right? Like some, we're not able to like just, fly into the stratosphere just yet physically. But, we do actually have that capability. And the reality is that we are all energy, and energy is limitless, and your divine power comes from God, because you are also an extension from God, right? So you are actually also God, right? And so, and that's the whole thing too with your own power, is that's that God power within you that gets to be unleashed, emancipated, as well as your own abundance, right? So yeah, it's all connected. So Lauren says, thank you, Margarita. This was an amazing share. We'll give my intuition its voice. I love that. I keep waiting for reinforcement. It is on target. Thank you for always encouraging us to share. You're welcome. And that's a great awareness that you're creating for yourself, Lauren, right? And it's really about not waiting for that reinforcement that you're on target. You get to trust that you're on target, right? And it's just an actual shift of, oh, well, this is the intel I'm getting, so it is what it is, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really, that's all there is. It doesn't matter if you sound crazy by sharing it. It doesn't matter if if it's something you're sharing with your client. It's okay if your client may have an initial like, oh, I don't like that response, but it's like they're paying you for the truth, right? If they wanted to pay you for just what they want to hear, then they need to go to someone else. Okay. And just also know too that use this forum that I'm creating here for you to be connected to your power, right? And to honor other people's sovereign power, and to respect the space as well. Just putting that out there. Oh, very interesting. Looks like I get to move someone out who is not doing that, because this is my account, and this is something that you get to do too. Right? You get to be discerning about who you allow on your page, so for instance, with, any comments and people who are being spammy and using your forum to spam other people, right? That's like really kind of like old school, old paradigm bullshit. And you get to choose what to do with it, right? You can block, you can delete, you can report, or do nothing. Up to you. Viking Girl Designs shares, back in college, I told my professor in class that it's not junk DNA, that thought is junk would be there if it wasn't important. I thought back then it was inherited memories. Yeah, and in a way it is, right? Because you're literally remembering your God self when it's activated. That's where that is. So any questions about the specific topic? Because so far I don't see any. But I'm glad this is resonating for you. And when you are really in your power, right? And you're able to like focus with your intuition and be in service, then it's like all the distraction stuff just is not really so important, right? So that's really important to know. Okay. So if you're just joining us now, just letting you know we're kind of coming to the end of today's episode, today's Rise Up with Margarita show. The topic was 5 ways to be sure you do not use your intuition. And then I talked about why it's so important to be discerning with what your intuition is and what it isn't. 5 ways to be sure you do not use your intuition, and how to more fully take ownership of your Lightworker gifts and abilities. So if you're just joining us now, for instance, you'll want to check out the replay. Ramble on Rose says, this was so good. Thank you. Very informative. I just need to do the work to be curious and call forth the steps. Yeah, you know, it's like it begins with that inquiry, right? Like all of our healing, all of our, anything we're moving through, anything we need to clear, you know, any of the big stuff we need to do, it all begins with an internal inquiry. It begins with just your own genuine curiosity about what you're experiencing and why you're experiencing it in that way, and choosing to experience it in that way, right? Because then when you start like getting clear and, you know, then you can really be connected to what your energy imprint is really about. And then empower that. Ness says, very powerful once again. Your shares are always on point. Thank you so much. Cloverly Sage says, thank you so much for all the gems. So much resonates. I'm glad to hear it. So Medium of Light says, how do we know the difference between instinct and intuition? And can they be wildly different? Well, you know, intuition can be called different things, right? Like your intuition can be looked at as feeling the energy, or someone else might say, like, or someone in corporate, for instance, might say, I'm trusting my instincts, right? It's all the same thing. It's just a matter of like where you're coming from, right? Because like, you know, before I became a healer, I was in corporate, right? So that's why I'm so good with all these various healers and light workers who are now transitioning into their greater work from like a day job of some sort or corporate, for instance, because I had been there, and I created my private practice from the ground up, and then also created my coaching mentorship from the ground up as well, you know, for the past couple of years now, right? So this is all something that, you know, I'm aware of. You know, when you have that kind of corporate experience, they use terms such as, these are my instincts, right? This is my gut instinct, right? That's usually what they use. Light workers, people who are doing energy work, they'll be like, oh, I can feel into that, right? I feel the energy of that. That's what they'll say, right? So it'll always be very different based on your background, but it's all the same thing, right? If it's your intuition coming forward, that's how it is. Grateful Farms, first time attending this. So glad to have you here. That's awesome. Such beautiful guidance. Thank you for being of service in this way and sharing it with us. Deep gratitude and love for you. Thank you so much. Sending you love as well. Will is saying, feel the force, my love. Yeah, so that's the other perspective, right? If you've watched a lot of Star Wars, or you happen to be a Jedi, you will be like, I can feel the force, right? So it's all about, you know, where you're coming from. Reluka is saying, if it is a call to do more things, both from intuition and fear, how would you recommend to go about it? I think of big decisions as well. So let me see what you're asking here. Both from intuition and fear, if it's a call to do more things. Well, if I understand you correctly, the reality is that when you're really being called, especially for big decisions, things where it's like, oh my God, this could make or break my business, that could make or break what I believe in or what I'm showing up in the world as, right? It is normal and typical to feel fear when you are going into that upgrade, right? Like, I mean, I would say almost all of the time, every single time you are upgrading into a new level of being and embodiment, you will feel that fear, guaranteed. And you can still feel that fear and be like, okay, what's that fear about, right? Back to the internal inquiry of, okay, is this fear because my ego can't tell that I'm about to jump off the cliff and like I'm about to just get embodied now? Or is this just simply like wrong? Is it just absolutely wrong? It's not aligned? Like there's a big difference, right? So you can feel fear and connect with your intuition because you're about to enter into something big, or you can feel fear and believe your ego, believe your fear about like, oh, wow, you know, that's scary. That means I can't do this, right? There's a difference there. So I hope that helps. I love that, Ness. You're so helpful. Every Monday, same time, always so valuable. I set my alarm for this. Oh, I love that. I love that. Awesome. So, okay, I think I answered some of your questions. And these were great questions too. So thank you for taking your time out today, your afternoon or your morning or your evening to get engaged with your power, right? Because this is what this is all about. You know, as an activator for the new code of power, it's my jam. Like I'll talk about power day in, day out, right? So I hope that helped. And Reluca says it helps a lot. Thank you so much. Glad to hear it. Rooted and Wild. I just love that account name. Rooted and Wild. Always look forward to Mondays with you. Thank you for the weekly dose of fierce empowerment. You're welcome. Shanute says, thank you for confirming we are not dying. You're welcome. You know, it also is an indication that you're able to see me on social media that you're not dying. So yes, you're welcome, everyone. So glad to see you here. And thank you for being here, being so amazing and powerful and curious about your power. And if this has really served you, if what I've shared has served you, and you're curious about being supported by me in next steps, then DM me. Let me know, what you're looking for, what kind of support you're looking for, and let's have a conversation. All right. Medium of Light says, thank you very much. This was my first time and leaving a lot more empowered. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Love that. Okay. So sending you so much love to you and your week. Have a wonderful, amazing week full of love, light, and power. And my challenge to you is to take one of these 5 things that you may identify with, that may resonate for you, about the 5 ways to be sure you do not use your intuition, and let me know in the comments how you're going to shift that this week. I'm really, truly, honestly curious. It's not like, I'm curious, tell me, what you're going to do, right? No, I actually want to know. I actually want to know. Praying Mantis Medicine today is strong. Ooh, I love that. And by the way, adding to the mix, Cardinal Medicine is strong. I'm going to actually be sharing a reel with you. I think it'll be today. I'm going to share it with you later today. I did like a little walk in Central Park and went into a very little known sanctuary that my partner, my twin flame, Stacy, brought me to on Saturday. And I can't wait to share it with you because, yeah, and the point being is that cardinal, like a female cardinal, literally hopped over to us. Cardinals don't do that, by the way. Not even domesticized cardinals. And this one was not, she was not tagged or anything. And she just basically hopped over to us and she's like looking at us like, I'm curious about you guys. And so anyway, praying Mantis Medicine is in the house, and Cardinal Medicine is also in the house. And so sending you so much Praying Mantis Medicine and Cardinal Medicine to uplift your empowered path, and have an amazing week.